Greetings, everyone. Dr. Annette West, Publishing Pusher here. Thanks for joining me in the JetName Publishing, talking all things books. Yes, the operative words, all things. I'm excited you're here. You listen in, share your thoughts. You don't have to be live on the screen to be able to talk. And I want you to know your success is my business. I'm here to assist you, support, empower, inspire as we pull out those thoughts to get these books accomplished. Thanks again for joining me.
All right, everybody, welcome. It's a great morning. Good to see Miss Anna back from her excursions. Miss Anna, how was everything?
Everything went well altogether. We had 9 sessions of online instruction for state employees in the state of Michigan, and it turned out to be quite an experience because we had some participants who were brand new to the investigation team. It's a group of investigators, and some who had been working for 12, 14 years. And this was a required professional development program. And so working with those who were new, those who were experienced, turned out to be an interesting challenge for me. But much of what I had been learning in this group encouraged me to have interactive sessions where they are actually applying during the section some of the strategies that I was presenting. And when they began to work together in breakout rooms, they were finding that they were being challenged by the same strategies, and some of the things that I was able to share with them, they were able to utilize on reports that they are writing now that are due in a couple of weeks. So though I missed my 2 weeks here, I was doing some of the things that I've learned here in that particular role.
Now, Miss Anna, were any of your resources that you've worked with or created yourself included in this project? And also, were you able to sell your products?
No.
Okay.
I was not able to sell my products outright in the program, but the person who introduced me mentioned that I am a published author. And much of what I used in the program, things that appear in my books. And so if someone is interested in pursuing this, I hope that they will do what almost everybody else does. Go online, do a search, and they will see something that will use. But no, because this was a government program required by the government, and they hired me to do this, I could not promote my own publications in this setting. However, the person who arranged for me to come is one of my clients, and she was satisfied with the work that we had done together. And when the idea came up in her department to do some professional development for the writers, she proposed that I do it. And I had to write a proposal. She submitted it, they hired me, and I did it. And so thanks for asking.
So, Miss Anna, that was a part of that showing up, wasn't it? You've been showing up. People have been connecting with you because you've been speaking and sharing what's in your toolbox. So therefore, people see your value and they pass that information on. So this is really, really great. Also in this room, we actually had some people in here, some dialogues on the screen, and now one of the people that was on the screen actually got on somebody's network because they were on here and gave us a shout out because of that connection. So you just have to show up because you never know how the connections are going to take place.
Right, right. And we've mentioned this before, but someone else I connected through this JetName Publications All Things Books, we began to pull together a mailing list. I've used it 3 times and getting 40, just this last week, 40% interactions with that because of someone who helped me to focus on the mailing list rather than just doing a general one. Who do we really want to meet? And between the
Mhm.
two of us, we've come up with a mailing list of over 300 names,
Wow.
and it's working. So connections do make a difference.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Miss Anna. I'm excited.
Oh,
Yes, to see what my peeps are doing. Yes, because listen, we're kingdompreneurs, and so therefore we have to actively show up and engage so that as God opens the doors, like the door was open for Miss Anna, she had to write the proposal, but she knew what she needed to. She prayed, she knew what she needed to include in it. She included it, and guess what? That was a door that was open that she was allowed to go through. So we never know. Like sometimes we won't go a place because of this, and we won't do this because of that, but we don't even know what the bigger picture is. So we've got to be willing to get out and make our presence known. That's that S3 model. If you don't show up, people don't know who you are. If you don't speak out, people don't know you have something to say. And if you don't share it, people don't know what's in your toolbox.
Right.
Yes.
And that's one of the things too about self-promotion. That's been difficult for me. As an educator, we are taught just to share.
Right.
And for me to be encouraged by people here on this program to share what I do, and when it's appropriate, to charge for what I do. And when it's not, to give it because it will be given back in some way or another. And so that 3S does work in this setting, particularly for shy people with a big mouth.
Well, I'm gonna say I was a shy child, but I'm not a shy adult. I've come into my adulthood in a stronger way. But I will say marketing and sales has never been something that I've been interested in, but it's something that I must be interested in. And so that is the thing. And so instead of selling something to someone, we're asking someone to invest in themselves.
I like that. So you invest in yourself and I will help you, but you will pay for it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
it's an investment, right?
Okay. All right.
So we're asking people to invest in themselves for their growth and development. And in that process, we get invested in as well. But we're also what? We're pouring into them because of that investment. So this is a great thing. So I have a little good news, the S3 model. So after I left this room last week, I don't know what got said, but something was in me. So I said, you know what? You need to get that. Might just be an ebook. It may only be an ebook, but I'm already 5,000 words in for the S3 model. Never dawned on me that I would have that much information to share on the S3 model. So, because when I really started thinking about the S3 model and I started adding content and I was going through my resources, it all comes back to your presence, and being willing to publicly speak. So I was like, oh, you got all of this public speaking content from when you used to teach public speaking. Integrate some of this in there so people understand how I can connect with other groups so that I can become a better public speaker. Because if we're not good at something, I talk about the SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And the strengths and the weaknesses are the internal, which are the things that we have the ability to adjust. So if we're not strong in an area, we think I'm weak, I'm not used to talking, then gain the skill set so that you will become comfortable talking, and that will no longer be a weakness. It will now become a strength.
You just mentioned SWOT. That's what I'm presenting next week and won't be able to be here. This is with English teachers from across the state who have become department chairs. And their question is, how do I lead from the middle? I've been a member of this department for X number of years. I've been promoted to department chair. Now I am responsible for the group. but I'm responsible to my administrators. And so that's one of the strategies we're going to be doing during that session. Uh, who are you as a leader? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And more importantly, how can this organization support you in it? I'm not sure if this is where I heard it about it, but thank you for reinforcing that it's still an effective way to interact in a group of people who want to grow.
Yes, it is one of my signature messages.
Okay.
But I come from it from different perspectives. Saturday, I spoke on the SWOT analysis, but I spoke in respect to financial management. Okay. So looking at all the different aspects of our lives and what we do. So you're correct, Miss Anna. It can be used across professions. It can even be used in our own homes. We call it a personal SWOT analysis, but I'm not talking about SWOT analysis today, but we just threw that little bit. Go start reading up on the SWOT analysis because it is something that is very important. I remember the first time I heard about the SWOT analysis was in 1997. I was at Morris College, my professor, Dr. eBay, who blessed us last week being in here. So that was nice that he showed up and supported and stayed the whole session. That was the first place that I heard about the SWOT analysis. And I have built on it since then. And it really gave me an advantage when I went to my master's program, and strategy was one of the things we had to do, but other people had never been exposed to it. So I was ahead of the game. So SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, those things that are internal, and opportunities and threats are those things that are external. So we can do a whole bunch of teaching on that. So I'm excited for you, Miss Anna.
Right. You know what? We may be able to do a SWOT analysis for book publishing and editing and supporting and marketing. It may be worth sharing for people to do just on their own, because sometimes we don't realize our strengths. We don't realize the weaknesses that we have that, as you said, can be built up in a collaborative setting like this one. The opportunities that we have, but what are the threats to having those opportunities come to fruition? It may be worth doing sometime.
Yeah, I think that's a good. I did write that down.
Okay.
But I have to make myself finish this thing, and I was like, well, maybe I'll just do some ebooks, and maybe I'll just do some ebooks and then some audio books of those books. And I won't worry about the hard copy books. And maybe down the line, I might come back to that. So this is strategy again, is laying out the things that we think that we can do, and then determining what's a best fit, and prioritize those things as to what we can or cannot do at this moment, why we can't do it, why we need to let it ride for a little bit. So it is a nice process to go through to help us to stay focused on what we're going to be doing. And good morning, Kimberly. Good morning, Minister Angela. And good morning, Nicole. Good to have you all in the Zoom session talking all things books, everybody. Thank you so much. Anybody have any comments or questions? I do have some content to share today. And for those of you who are already authors, you will definitely find value in it. And for those who are just starting the process, you'll be getting some information early on that will help you through the process. But I want to share a little bit today, and I definitely want you all to come in and make your comments as we're going through. But I wanted to share some steps to selling books at live events. Selling books at live events. Why do I want to talk about this? COVID, the greatest threat of COVID has passed. Now, COVID is still in the land, and we know that it is increasing in other areas. So we still have to be mindful and wise in how we're moving and how we are engaging. But more avenues are going to open for us to be able to get at live events and share our knowledge, share our products and services as well. So we are book creators, book authors, book publishers. And I wanted to share with us some steps that will help us in selling our books at live events. Now, you heard Miss Anna and I just talking about the SWOT analysis, talking about strategy. A part of that understanding the strategy is, and this is our first step, we must be willing to set clear goals. We have to set clear goals. We have to define what we hope to achieve. What are our sales? What is our exposure? What is the networking that's going to be required? And we also need to know our audience and tailor our sales approach to them. Now, you probably say, I keep hearing setting clear goals. I keep hearing know your audience. Yes, because this is something that we say to the author or to the person who wants to become a book author. This is one of the first things that we say. Know your audience. Who is your targeted audience? You have to do your research. Here we go, research, to be able to find out who your target is. So here's how we can approach some ways of setting clear goals. The first thing we can do under setting clear goals is determine what our primary objective is. You heard me say sales, exposure, networking. Sales says if your main goal is to sell books, then you must set sales targets based on previous events or projected attendance. If you were a book author, like people say, well, I want to quit my job and I just want a book author. It's not as easy as most people think, because a whole lot of people don't become millionaires writing books, okay? So you have to know that. And is it possible for you to? Oh, of course it is. Is it likely? It's possible, okay. But it's such a minute amount that do. But that doesn't mean you can't be successful. That doesn't mean that you can't do good sales, but you are gonna have to do some focusing and laying out in writing what you want and how you plan to get there. If you've already done events, then you have a gauge. If you've attended events, but you've not done events, if you've paid attention to the flow of people selling books and people showing up and vending tables, that would surely give you an idea of possible sales. And maybe some projected thought on what the attendance could possibly be. Now, one of the things, if somebody asks me to speak, I'm going to ask the question, how many people do you anticipate having at this conference? How many people do you anticipate having at this workshop? I'm going to ask that question. I've had the opportunity to be on some platforms where they say, well, I'm going to have 100 people. I'm going to have 200, or we're going to have 500 people. I asked the question, would you be willing to take my book as a resource for their packages if I give it to you at a discount? Most people are going to say yes, because if you give them the book at a discount, if it's a $20 book, it costs you $3 to make it, and you might would say another $1 for the shipping handling portion, so $4, so that's $16. And you tell them they can get the book for $10, or well, maybe not $10, maybe $12. You would still earn a profit of $8. You might say that's not a lot of money, but if you sell 100 books, that's $800. If you sell 200 books, that's $1,600. So look at it that way. That's money that you would not have had before. But because you're focused on your sales and projections and attendance, you would be able to ask those questions. The next thing is exposure. If you're focused on increasing your visibility, then we could measure some of our success through social media engagement. How many people sign up for our newsletters? conversations that we have with potential readers? Are we getting out? Are we making our presence known? Are people hearing what we have to say? Are we sharing what's in our toolboxes? These are the things that exposure is paramount if we want to move forward, and is a part of our setting clear goals in our strategy. And the third thing is networking. You may want to connect with other authors, influencers, groups like this, groups like Nicole has, industry professionals. Set goals of how many contacts you'd like to make. So you could say, I was talking to this one lady, she sells books. She says she has a goal that her goal is to sell 3 books a day. 3 books a day, that's her goal. She does better some days, but her goal is 3. So at the end of the week, if she hasn't sold 21 books, she knows she has to push it even further, harder the next week to reach that goal. But she has an idea that if I sell 3 books a day at $20 a book, that is a $60 income and maybe a $52 profit or something like that. So now 3 books a day doesn't really sound like a lot, but think about this. Or you could set a goal like this. I just want to sell 365 books. It's 365 days in a year. This is the easiest model. Think about this. It's 365 days in a year. I just want to sell 1 book a day at $20. Then you can do the math and determine at 365 times 16, which is the portion of profit that you would make because you're going to sell the books yourself. Multiply that by 365, and then you would know what your income could be from selling 365 books in a year. And then you could say, oh, okay, that's play money. Or you could say, you know what, I need to double that. 2 books a day, 3 books a day. That's how we do it. The second thing that falls under setting goals is setting specific. Well, let me come back to that. Defining your primary objective there that I talked about: sales, exposure, and networking. Anyone have anything to share on that? I'll give you opportunity before I move on. The second, Ms. Anna, your mic is open. Did you want to say something? Okay. All right. The second is setting specific measurable targets. Set specific measurable targets. How do we do this? We do it with sale goals, engagement goals, and brand awareness. Sales goals, just like I was mentioning under the networking aspect and products. Aim for your certain number of books, sales, or revenue generated. Give yourself that example. I was a little ahead of myself. Give yourself that example of how many books, what's your target number of books. And when you go to a live event, you should already have an idea of how many books you want to sell. Like my goal, I look at what I always have a minimum 10 books that I want to sell. Now that's local, because I don't really have to go anywhere. But if I had to pay to attend, if I had to pay for the table, I had to pay for my hotel, I had to pay for my transportation, had to pay for my food and all of that stuff, I'm going to divide that amount by what a book would cost to tell me if I want to break even for what I spent for that event, this is how many books I have to sell. If I don't do that, if I don't meet that goal, it's okay, because I know about tax write-offs when it comes to your business. But you have to start somewhere. You have to set a goal. You can say, I just want to sell 50 books during the event. If it's a 3-day event, 2-day event, 1-day event. If they say they have, let me give you an example of what I did. So the first time, tell you guys it's good. The first time I ever vended, I was a part of a women's ministry, military women's ministry, and they had local, regional, and international conferences. They had a regional conference in Virginia Beach, Virginia. They told us that there would be 700 people, women in attendance. So I said, I'm going to prepare for 200 sales. That was my goal. I said, I'm going to prepare for 200 sales. Now, I was bold. This was my first time showing up at a venue to sell my content. It was my first book, Living Words of Encouragement, Volume 1. It was my first book. I had t-shirts that said Sisters Living for Christ. I had 100 t-shirts. I had 20 mugs. So I had a set number of things, and I had already figured what I would earn selling each of those items. It just happened to be that at this particular, because you just never know who's going to show up. At this particular event where there were 700 of us, there was another group also. And these groups could go into the vending sections to anybody's vending if it was open. And ours was open. Well, guess what other group was at this venue? The Red Hat Society. Well, these t-shirts that I had created that said Sisters Living for Christ had women in these fancy dresses, and they had red hats on. I didn't know nothing about the Red Hat Society, nothing at all. Well, I guarantee you more than half of those shirts were purchased by the Red Hat Society. So I had 100 shirts. Now, this was in 2006. This was in 2006. I had 100 shirts. I purchased those shirts for $3. Since it was for our women's ministry, I only sold the shirts for $10. So that meant every shirt, I would earn a profit of $7. Well, I sold all of my shirts and had orders. So I sold 100 t-shirts. So that meant I had, what was that, $700? My math might be out. But anyway, I sold 100 t-shirts at $7. So that's $700. So I had $700. I sold all my mugs. My mugs were $20. They cost me $5. I sold all 20 of them. So I earned a profit of $15 for every mug. I had some other little things on the table. Now, I only sold about 30 books. 30 books at $15. I racked up at that venue. Just in the evening on Friday, all day Saturday, and in the morning on Sunday. So when we do our homework and we ask our questions, but then we're also prepared just in case. I had a sheet that had my products that people would be able to purchase. Like the mugs were a one-time thing. And sometimes I'll do something that's just for one time, and I'll let people know this is the only time this is going to be sold. So people are going to buy that up fast. So I left that venue with $1,900. I spent nowhere near that for the items that I purchased and that I ordered. So you can see how you can set the stage for your success. And I left with about 40 maybe more t-shirt orders that people prepaid. And guess what? I told them, just add $10 for shipping and handling. Even though it might have been more than that, it didn't matter. I was going to make a profit either way, because that was 40 more sales. That was $400 more. So if I had to put a few dollars out to get the packages sent, besides what they gave me, it was no problem. So under set specific measurable targets, under goal setting, sales goals. The second thing is engagement goals. Determine how many people you'd like to engage or add to your mailing list. So make sure at live venues, you actually have a sign up list on your table. Invite people to sign up to know what's going on with you, to get a copy of your newsletter that you send out. Say, I have a bi-monthly newsletter that I'll be sending out. Oh, you may have been thinking about it, but you could tell them, because guess what? In 2 months, you'll have it out, because you're going to do what you said you were going to do. So it may not be out now, but you can put it out. You can send them also. I'm going to, make sure that you get connected to my website, to my blog, to my whatever that I have. Easily doable. And the third thing is brand awareness. Plan to distribute a specific number of business cards, bookmarks, or flyers. Decide what you want to do. I want to hand out 200 flyers to promote my book. Now, I must admit, I have never had flyers to promote anything. I just haven't. I've either talked to people, I've given people bookmarks from a book that I've already done, and it has my publishing company on it, and then they can reach out to me. But the flyers, I've not done that one. But I mean, you can still do it. Because if you're at a live event, as long as you have someone who's at your table, see, you don't want to send your person with your flyers. You want to engage the people yourself. So I never go, unless it's local, to places by myself, because local are typically going to be smaller. But when I go to large events, I invest in people to come and help me to ensure that my table is always manned, that they know the answers to give to people. They can assist people. They can do sales for me while I am going around and connecting, networking with all the other vendors that are in the environment with me. Anything you all want to share or ask about setting specific measurable targets? Okay, and the third thing that I want to share today on how to prepare for live books and goal setting is understand your audience. Understand your audience. Do your homework. Know who you're talking to. Know who you want to talk to. Tailor your goals based on the type of attendees for the event. For example, if you're selling at a local fair, you might focus on building relationships and exposure. While if you're at a book fair, you may lean towards higher sales targets. So it just depends on where you are and who the audience is for each place that you go. We heard Miss Anna say at the beginning that she had the opportunity to do some training, but she wasn't able to talk about and sell her products. But guess what? It was mentioned because somebody knew her, so they shared that information. So the information will flow forward, and prayerfully the sales will come. So that's all. I feel like a net flew in my eye. That's all I am going to share today on how to prepare for live book events. I have more content that I'll share next week. We focused on part of number one because there's more content, setting clear goals. We talked about defining your primary objective, which is sales, exposure, networking. And then we talked about setting specific measurable targets, which is sales goals, engagement goals, and brand awareness. And then the third thing we talked about under this part is understanding your audience. So that's what I have for you on today. If there's no questions or further comments, we're going to wind ourselves down. I want to remind everyone this session is open 30 to 45 minutes. And I appreciate those that come in and bring value, their comments, whether they're in the chat or are able to speak on the screen. So again, thank you, Miss Anna. So thank you everyone for coming in. Miss Anna, Minister Angela, Nicole, Thomas. Thank you so much for coming in this week. And I tell you, you never know who's going to be here each week because we just put it out and whoever shows up, they show up. Kimberly was also here. She normally pops in. So I just want to say thank you so much for being here. I want to remind everyone that we are blessed to be a blessing. And if you serve King Jesus, you are supposed to be the visible manifestation of his invisible presence. Bye-bye, everyone. Catch you next time.